All right, good day everyone. My name is Okechukwu Joshua Otazi, and today we'll be continuing with the index function. The last time we met, friends, talked about the match function, and today we'll be talking about the index function. And basically, it's just the other side of the same coin. All right, so basically what the index function does is that it flips the coin one step backward. In other words, what it does is the last time we used match, we were given the names of the country, and then we were told to find the row number where those names appear. All right, but right now we've been given the row number which we got using the match function, and we've been asked to find the names of the country. All right, so we're just moving a step backward. All right, so the index function is doing a directly opposite of what the match function is doing. All right, so we have been given the row number, and we've been asked to fill in the countries where those row number appear in this data set. All right, so the last time we were given the country name, and then we were asked to fill in the row number. All right, so it's just the opposite right now. And so the second question is asking us, given the column number, we should fill in the headers. All right, so with the index function, we can get the names or the values that are contained in a particular column or row number. All right, so friends, basically what we're going to do right now is we are going to expect, for example, given this data set over here, the row number for row number 4 in our data set over here for row number 4. All right, so for this fourth row, not this row, this is the first row, sorry, this is the second row, this is the third row. All right, this is the fourth row. Now we're expecting the country Colombia to get printed over here. All right, so we're expecting Colombia to get printed over here. Now for the sixth row, we're expecting Mongolia to get printed over here. All right, so that's what we're expecting, and the same thing should replicate for our entire data set. For example, this fifth row, we are expecting the country Canada to get printed in this particular cell. All right, so basically, friends, we've been given the row number, and then we're expecting Excel to match the countries that fit this particular row number, all right, in this particular data set. All right, so Excel is going to be looking at this column and then looking for a particular row. Of course, it's going to treat this as the first row. Right, it's going to treat the header as the first row, and then it's going to be looking for a particular name of a country that matches a particular row number, and then it's going to search this particular column and then fill it up in this entire data set. All right, so friends, basically if we come to the formulas tab, the way we do it, and I'm going to come up to lookup and references. Now in this drop down, we've talked about the VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and lots of lookup and reference formulas, and we are still going to talk more about the lookup and reference formulas. But right now, friends, what we are dealing with right now is called the index function. Now if I just drop my cursor on the index function, you can see a call out box coming out, and Excel is going to tell me what the index function does. And now what Excel is saying is that the index function returns a value or reference of reference of the cell at the intersection of a particular row and column in a given range. You can click on tell me more, and Excel is going to tell you more about the index function. All right, so what Excel is saying is this. Now if you in the index function right now, what it does is this: it's going to look at a particular column and then look at a row, and the intersection points, for example, if it looks at this column D and look at the row 4, the intersection point is Malawi. All right, so for example, it's going to print out Malawi for a row number 4 and then the column D. All right, so that's what it's telling us. All right, so for example, in this case, we have a column called country. So Excel is going to look at this column, all right, called country, and then it's going to look at the several rows which you are going to specify, and then it's going to look at the intersection of those rows with this column, and then it's going to return the country name. All right, that's what Excel is going to do in filling up these particular empty cells that we have over here. All right, so basically, friends, that's how the index function operates here in Excel. All right, so without wasting much of your time, let's get an example or see an example of how the index function works. All right, so I'm just going to double tap into this cell, and I'm going to say equals to, and I'm going to say index. And I'm going to open my bracket. Now in the array data type, I'm going to come to data, all right, and then I'm going to click on distributors ID, which is the first cell in this entire table, and I'm going to hold my control key down. I'm going to hold my shift key down also. Holding those two keys, I'm going to press my right arrow key and my down arrow key. That's the easiest way to quickly highlight data set. All right, so friends, remember I have to lock this cell. I've taught you about cell locking, and I have to lock this cell. All right, so I'm going to highlight this section, and then I'm going to hold my function key and then press F4. All right, now that I've done that, I'm going to put a comma sign. Now the next thing Excel, oh, I think there's a mistake over here. Sorry, I'm just going to Control Z this, and then I'm going to put my comma sign. Now the next thing Excel is telling us to do right now is to insert the row number. Now before doing the row number and then the column number, now I want to show you something in Excel. Now in this function here, Excel is telling us there are two ways you can use the index function. You can use the index function with an array, a row number, and then the column number. and it will give you the answer. Or you can use the Excel, you can use the index function with reference, row number, column number, and area number. But what I'm going to be teaching you right now is using the index function with an array, a row number, and then a column number. All right, so friends, I've just taught you how to highlight, how to get your array, which how we did it was we went to the data set and then highlighted the entire table, and that was how we were able to get our array. All right, so right now we're going to be talking about the row number. Now you can see over here we have several rows, right? All right, so I'm going to first, I can click on this, and then I'm just going to get B4, or I can just type in B4 over here, and it's going to automatically highlight that particular cell. All right, so this is our row number. All right, we're not going to lock this because we want it to shift as we drag down on our data set. All right, so the column number right now is country, which is in the data set. It appeared in, I'm just going to come over here, or I'm just going to type in 3. All right, of course I know that in my data set it appeared in column number 3, and then I'm going to click on enter. Now you can see I have Colombia over here in my data set, just to show you what I mean. All right, so friends, you can see that in this particular case we had column number 1, column number 2, and then column number 3. So the column number where country appears column number 3. All right, so that was why we were able to put 3 over here where it asked for the column number. All right, so when it asked for the column number, we knew that country appeared in column number 3. So I'm just going to put column number 3. In other words, Excel is going to look at this particular row called B4 and then search for the intersection point with the column number 3, and then it's going to give me the value that appears over there. And then as I drag down, this is going to change to B5, and then going to change to B6, but this is not going to be changing. All right, the number 3 is not going to change. This is going to change to B7, change to different values, and then Excel is going to look at the intersection point of this row number and a column number, and then it's going to give me the value. So I'm just going to click on enter, and then I'm going to come to the bottom right, I see a cross sign. I'm going to left click and drag down to the end, and this is how we get the entire country name. All right, so friends, that's how we are able to use the index function right now. All right, so friends, the next thing we're going to be talking about right now is still on the index function, and this time around we've been giving column numbers, not row numbers as we were given the previous time. All right, so this time around we have column numbers, and we've been asked to fill in the header's name. In other words, we have just one particular row and then multiple columns, and then we are supposed to look at the value. So for example, I can specify this particular row and then specify different column numbers. All right, so that I say look at the intersection point of different column numbers to this particular row, and then print out the exact value of where a particular data set belongs. All right, so the row we picked this time around is a single row, just this row called the header section, and then we specified different column numbers. We picked different column numbers from column number 1, 2 down to 11 columns, and then we are expecting Excel to give us the header's name. In other words, for column number 1, we are expecting distributor's ID to get printed over here. Or in other words, Excel is supposed to look at this particular row and then look at this particular column and look at the intersection point, which is distributor's ID, and then it's supposed to print out distributor's ID over here for us. And then for row number column number 8, it's supposed to print out months sold. For down to column number 11, it's supposed to print out revenue. All right, so this is what we're expecting Excel to do basically. All right, so the last time we gave it several row numbers and then just one particular column called country, and so it was able to look at the intersection point of those different row numbers to the column called country in this particular data set, and then it was able to print out and give us the various values that are contained in that particular cell. All right, so the same thing is what we want to do over here, but just a little difference. This time around we are giving it several column numbers in one particular row called the headers, all right, the headings, and then we're expecting it to give us the values that are contained in the intersection points of that particular row and then the multiple columns. All right, so friends, at this juncture right now, without wasting much of your time, I'm just going to double tap inside this cell, and I'm going to say equals to index, and I'm going to just open my bracket. Now I'm going to select an array. I'm going to come over to data set right now, and my array, now I do this, I just click on distributor's ID, hold down my control key, hold down my shift key, right arrow key, and down arrow key, and now I select all the entire data set. All right, so I'm just going to log this B2 colon L109. So I'm going to hold function key and F4 to lock it. All right, now that I've locked this, I'm going to put a comma sign. Now with that comma sign already chosen, now the next thing I'm going to do right now is to choose a row number, friends. And now I know that the row I'm looking at is just the first row in my data set. I can click on this data set and then show you. All right, but it's just the first row of data that I'm selecting. All right, so I'm going to put a comma sign. Now the column numbers, I expect the column numbers to change. So I'm going to just pick this particular first column, which is C22. I'm just going to type in C22, and now it's going to highlight it. All right, so I'm going to close my bracket and then click on enter. All right, so now that I've clicked on enter, friends, you can see over here we have distributor's ID gets printed. I just come to the bottom right where I see a cross sign and drag to the end, and now you can see that we have the different names of this particular column numbers being printed out. For example, in column number 1 we had distributor's ID. You can see over here in this first column distributor's ID. All right, so in column number 8 we have month sold. All right, for this particular row, we have month sold. All right, so you can see over here in column number 8, we have month sold printed over here. In column number 11, we have revenue. All right, so you can see over, if you count the columns, you find out that this is column number 11, and we have revenue printed over here. All right, so friends, that's basically how we use the index function to get the intersection point of the different column numbers and the row numbers. So the intersection point really works with hand in hand with the match function, and that's what we are going to be looking at next, and how powerful we can the index match function mixed together can be in helping us to look up or reference a particular data set or subset of data in our entire data set. I said, friends, without wasting much of your time, I'd like you to just delve into your worksheet and practice what you've learned. Thank you so much.